Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the current affairs classes. So today I'll be taking up your 28th and 29th October current affairs. Till 27th we have already covered in the last classes. Today we are going to have some really important news in the regulatory bodies section as well. So please pay attention in the class. Let's begin with the analysis. First, in the ESI finance and business category, we have the just a second. Pradhan Mantri Vanbandhu Kalyan Yojana. We have the Pradhan Mantri Vanbandhu Kalyan Yojana. It was released on October 28, 2014. Pradhan Mantri Vanbandhu Kalyan Yojana. What is this scheme basically? So it was recently released on 28th October. The overall purpose is to address the unique particular challenges faced by the tribal community in India particularly, right? So to address the unique challenges faced by your tribal communities in India, because tribal communities, they constitute almost 8.9% of the country's population. Addressing their economic, social, healthcare, etc. challenges is important. That's why this scheme is important. Remember that. And the associated ministry is Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Please remember this as well. Ministry of Tribal Affairs. This particular schemes, it has 6 steps which are aiming to transform the lives of the tribal communities. So broadly 6 themes and 6 steps are there which you can remember. First is Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. This is basically the revamped version of the Special Central Assistance to Tribal Sub-Scheme, okay, with the new nomenclature of Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. So the erstwhile Special Central Assistance to Tribal Sub-Scheme has only been revamped as Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. This basically wants to develop the tribal villages, empower them for their overall development. The implementing tenure of this one particular dimension among the 6 will be 21-22 to 25-26. Aim, as I told you, is to transform the villages with significant tribal population into Adarsh Gram. So all the villages having significant tribal population, they want to transform them into ideal villages or Adarsh Gram, which will be working for the overall betterment and upliftment of the tribal communities. Okay, so this is first thing. Then next we have, in these 6 steps, second is development of PVTGs, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. PVTGs are the more marginalized and more vulnerable tribal groups among the overall tribal groups, right? So PVTGs basically particularly vulnerable. These are the tribal communities which are particularly more backward and marginalized as compared to the other tribal communities. Okay, so remember. So the next one is development of these PVTGs particularly. And if you look at the state-wise distribution, Odisha, presently the state of Odisha has the maximum PVTGs in India. Then you have support to tribal research institutes. Whatever tribal research institutes we have for the identification of all the problems associated, challenges associated with the tribal population and finding out solutions to them, they also will be supporting such institutes. Then pre-metric scholarship provided to the tribal students, then post-metric scholarship as well. Also, administrative assistance will be provided for project management units. What are these project management units? Project management units will be effectively looking into the implementation of all these schemes, right? So this is the first thing. Remember that. Now moving on to your regulatory bodies news. This is very, very important, going to be very important. So please pay attention. All the facts are not important here. You can remember the important facts only, the broad headlines and their figures. All the facts you need not remember, but just understand the concept. Okay, so I'm going to explain the concepts as well here. In the regulatory bodies news, first you have RBI's 43rd edition or 43rd half-yearly report has been released from April to September 2024. This report is on the management of foreign exchange, right? Management of foreign exchange reserves. So this report on management of foreign exchange reserves has been released. It is giving out certain data, certain trends of foreign exchange management in India. So let's see, and remember this is 43rd such half-yearly report. Okay. Now, as per this report, first thing which we have is the position of foreign exchange reserves. Now this becomes important. This data becomes important. Okay. So as per this report, the position of foreign exchange reserves as on 18th October for India is total of 688.27 billion US dollars. So if they ask you the source, so according to this report, the forex reserves will be 688.27 billion US dollars. Remember this. So this becomes important. Then we have certain other figures as well. Your foreign currency assets are at 598.24 US dollars. Foreign currency assets, they include all your asset holding in terms of foreign currencies, like that can be cash, bond, any financial instrument, etc., etc., right? So foreign currency assets this much. Then the gold is 67.44 US dollars. Then you have a special drawing rights, SDRs, 18.27 US dollars, and reserve tranche position is 4.32 US dollars. So these all are the components of your foreign exchange management, right? So these are the figures, you can remember them. Now I hope you must be understanding the concept of foreign currency assets. I have told you what is SDR. SDR is basically a unit of claim. SDR is not a currency, remember. So in the IMF, every country has a quota. According to that quota, now that quota gets decided on the basis of the global economic position of the country, right? So every economy has a quota according to which it subscribes to the IMF, right? Gives fund to the allocates fund to the IMF. Now out of that quota you have certain proportion which you can withdraw, right, which gives you the reserve tranche position. Then you have the SDR, special drawing right. So SDR is the unit of claim. Now you can use this SDR to withdraw funds out of the currencies which are acceptable, the 5 currencies which are there in the IMF basket. So SDR is the unit of claim, it is not a currency, remember. This is the mechanism, overall mechanism of IMF. So remember this. Then we have important note here that during the half year period under review, reserves increased from earlier 646 to this much. Now, so during this period, the reserves, they have increased from 646.42 billion US dollars at the March end to 705 at the end of September 2024. So by the end of September 2024, the actual position is 705.78 billion dollars. Okay, remember that. Now we have certain category wise data and explanation here. This was just overall review. First thing, we have source of accretion to foreign exchange reserves. What is the source of this rise in the foreign exchange reserves? So on a balance of payment basis, if we look at, that means excluding the valuation effects. Now what does that mean? Excluding valuation effects means when we are trying to assess the foreign exchange position and not taking into consideration the foreign exchange rate fluctuation basically, or market volatility. So here we are not taking into consideration the fluctuation in the foreign exchange rate. Okay. Apart from that, so removing that, if we look at the BOP basis, balance of payment basis, foreign exchange reserves, they have increased by 5.2 billion US dollars. That's why this increase has been there, because on BOP basis they have increased. But remember, this is excluding the valuation effect. So no consideration of the foreign exchange rate volatility and changes, right? Remember that. Then we have forward outstanding. So the net forward asset payable of the RBI, they stood at 14.58 billion US dollars. Now what is this net forward asset payable? See, what happens is we have forward contracts with the other countries and central bank, etc., right? What are these forward contracts? These forward contracts are contracts basically on which we exchange currencies at a predetermined exchange rate, right? So on the basis of these forward contracts, the currencies are exchanged on a predetermined exchange rate. Now these contracts, the net of how much you are going to receive on the basis of these forward contracts and how much you are going to pay out of these forward contracts with the countries is the net forward asset position. I hope you have understood that, right? So remember, net forward asset position, as I told you, what is net forward asset position? So now this is payable. That means what RBI has to pay. This is payable position. This is net of what is accruing as per the forward contracts on the basis of which we exchange currencies at a predetermined exchange rate. So this amount is payable on the part of the RBI, right? This is payable. This is not receivable. I hope this is clear. So net forward asset payable of the RBI stood at 14.58 billion US dollars. This was forward outstanding. Then if we look at the external liabilities in relation to foreign exchange reserves. So external assets, they have increased by 108.4 billion US dollars. And liabilities, they have increased by 97.7 billion US dollars, right? So assets have risen more than the liabilities. This is something which is very clear. Okay, assets have risen more than the foreign liabilities. Then next we have net international investment position. If you look at the net investment international investment position, what does this reflect? Net international investment position is basically reflective of the difference between our foreign asset holding, whatever foreign currency assets we are holding, and whatever assets, financial assets, the outsiders, the foreigners abroad are holding in our economy. That difference is the net international investment position. I hope this is clear. Understood, right? So if we look at the net international investment position, it was negative. It was negative, remember. It was negative at 368.3 billion US dollars as against a negative of 379. Now it is negative, that means, if it is negative, that means we are holding more assets or they are holding more assets? Tell me. If it is negative, yes, anyone? Please let me know. If it is negative, that means they are holding more or we are holding more? Yes. Anyone? Nitin, they are holding more. Very good, Nitin. Right. So now I know that you have understood the concept, right? So that means that the foreigners abroad or the non-residents, they are holding more of your assets. So it is negative. Remember this trend. Then if we talk about the management of gold reserves, so at the end of the September 2024, the Reserve Bank held 854.73 metric tons of gold. You can remember this figure. Out of this, this is the distribution. This is not important. Then we talk about the financial transaction plan of IMF. Under this financial transaction plan, what is this FTP? FTP is nothing but the mechanism which provides member countries of IMF way to have purchase and repurchase transactions, right? So on this basis, we have purchase transactions. What are these purchase transactions? Whatever, say, we are withdrawing from the IMF, whatever reserve tranche position we have, we are withdrawing certain amount of it. So that is purchase transaction. Are you getting my point? Yes or no, right? And what is repurchase transaction? Whatever you have borrowed, say, or you have withdrawn, not borrowed, you have withdrawn. Withdrawn will be better, not borrowed, okay? So whatever you have withdrawn from IMF, you are paying it back. So that is repurchase transaction. Purchase transaction, you are withdrawing for certain purposes. Is this clear, everyone? So this financial transaction plan provides you purchase transaction option and repurchase transaction option, right? So under this, we have one purchase transaction. So one purchase transaction, that means one time we have withdrawn this much, right? One purchase transaction aggregating 327.41 million US dollars, and 7 repurchase transaction we have incurred. 7 repurchase transaction we have incurred, amounting 707.98 million US dollars. Clear? I hope this is clear, all these concepts. Now next, investments under, if you look at the new arrangements to borrow under the NAB facility, new arrangements to borrow of IMF and note purchase agreement with IMF. So what is this? First, you try to understand this NAB, new arrangement to borrow. New arrangement to borrow by IMF was a facility. It was introduced to raise additional resources for the IMF itself. Try to understand the concept first, right? So certain financial crisis like conditions, they require IMF to have additional resources so that it can help out the countries affected, isn't it? In that case, IMF also needs additional funds. Where will it go for the funds? So what happens is, this window was opened by IMF under which the member countries, they subscribe certain additional fund to the IMF. Are you getting my point? Now that fund can be further used or utilized by the member countries, whichever country is in, say, economic or financial distress. Okay, so this was your new arrangement to borrow. India is also a member of this mechanism, but recently when this report was finalized, we didn't have any subscription. So we have pledged to give additional funds under this, but we don't have recent subscription or any rollout of such funds recently from the part of the RBI, right? So RBI has nil subscription under the NAB as at the end of September 2024. I hope this is clear, right? Just try to understand the overall picture. Then we have SAARC swap arrangement. So what does the report says regarding the SAARC swap arrangement? First of all, you must be knowing about the SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, right? So SAARC countries के साथ, along with the other countries, we have currency swap arrangements, right? So apart from others, we have currency swap arrangements with SAARC as well. Now for this SAARC currency swap arrangement, currency swap framework, which came into operation on 15th November 2012, RBI, with the approval by Government of India, has put in a place a framework up to 2024-2027. So this now has a framework up to 2027. This is the thing, right? This currency swap framework with SAARC, now we have this valid up to 2024, say 2027. 2027 it will be valid up to. Now what is this currency swap arrangement? You need to understand currency swaps. How does these currency swaps work? What is a currency swap? Currency swap is basically a mechanism via which two entities, they exchange their loans particularly. That includes the principal as well as the interest rate. What is the use? So let me explain you quickly what is a currency swap, because these terminologies, they are often in news and in current affairs as well. So let's discuss quickly. If you look at the currency swaps, as I told you, now what happens and what is the broad purpose? Let's see. There's a company A. Okay. You have company A from USA, and then you have company B, say from Japan, right? We have two companies, two entities. Now what happens is, this company wants to operate in Japan. Company A wants to operate in Japan, expand its business in Japan. For that, it requires certain loan, right? Now you must be knowing that taking loan in your domestic currency is far cheaper as compared to taking loan in the foreign currency, because that would depend on the exchange rate, right? And that might be costlier, depends on the exchange rate. Are you getting my point? So what happens is, also say Japan, this company B wants to expand its business or operations in US. That's why wants to set up its factory or say branches, etc. in US. It also wants to expand in US. Now they both require certain funds, right? Say it requires $100 million, and it requires say 100 million yen, right? For example. Now what happens is, this, if wants to operate in Japan, requires this much loan. Company B wants to operate in US, requires this much loan. It is easier for these companies to take loan from their own country in their own domestic currency, say dollar and yen. Are you getting my point? So what they have done is they have taken this loan, right? Rather than this company going to Japan and then taking the loan, and that would be more costlier, this is the thing. Now they will exchange this. They will exchange the principal amount plus the interest rate. This interest will be predetermined, right? They will exchange this so that company B gets the loan in terms of yen so that it can invest in the Japan, and company B gets loan in terms of dollar so that it can invest in America. They will exchange this loan amount, the principal as well as interest. Have you understood this? So currency swap arrangements, they work like this. They provide them sources of funding, better and competitive sources of loans so that they can expand their business in other countries. Is this clear? Tell me, everyone. This is how currency swap works. This is just practical example, otherwise you will not be able to understand the significance of currency swap, right? I hope now this is clear. So moving back to the content. Now this framework with SAARC countries we have been extended up to 2027 to Reserve Bank has a mandate to invest up to $5 billion in the bonds issued by your India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited. Now this India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited primarily set up for the purpose of raising finance for infrastructure investment in India. Are you getting my point? So RBI has this mandate via these kind of actions. Say RBI invests up to this much in the bonds issued by India Infrastructure Finance Company. So this company has raised this much amount of fund from RBI. This contribution of RBI, overall infrastructure development, right? This was set up with this purpose only, to raise funds, even from the capital market, because you have bonds here. Bond is a part of capital market. To raise funds via capital markets even for infrastructure funding and development. That's why Reserve Bank has a mandate to invest up to $5 billion in these bonds, and therefore we have this fact that as the at the end of the September 2024, the amount invested in such bonds stood at $720 million. So you can remember this figure. Amount invested remains at $720 million. This was about the half-yearly report on the foreign exchange management. I hope all these concepts are clear. And remember the broader facts, right? Now moving on to the next section. Next in regulatory news, you have again something from RBI. RBI has fixed the minimum net worth of rupees 300 crores. This is also important, remember, 300 crores. Minimum net worth of rupees 300 crores for the entities who are seeking authorization or recognition to work as central counterparty at the time of submitting its application. What is a central counterparty? You need to understand first. A central counterparty, like you have CCIL in India, right? Clearing Corporation of India Limited, works as a central counterparty. That means what? You have two parties indulge in a transaction, so it basically helps in settlement of the transaction, right? Central counterparty helps you in the transaction settlement, like you have CCIL. Now there is this revised norm that when you are submitting the application, your minimum net worth should be rupees 300 crore. Please remember this. This is going to be important. 300 crores, right? If you want to work as a central counterparty. And every authorized central counterparty has to submit an audited net worth certificate reflecting at least minimum this much of net worth. Okay. Also, such authorized CCP or central counterparty should be a public company limited by shares. Should be a public company limited by shares. What does that mean? This requirement that it should be a public company limited by shares, that means it should be a public company. You know what is a public company? Limited by shares. What is limited by shares? Limited by shares means that the investors, the shareholders only have that much liability up to the amount they have invested initially. They don't have any liability in the overall debt of the company apart from the amount they have invested into it. I hope this is clear, right? So this is again the requirement. Also, foreign central counterparty can also apply for this. Okay, foreign central counterparty can also apply for this. Also, then the central counterparty should be constituting a regulatory compliance committee, which would have an independent director which would oversee whether you are complying with the regulatory guidelines properly or not. So this was the thing. Remember, 300 crores set as minimum net worth criteria for any entity to work as a central counterparty by RBI. Then next, again in the regulatory bodies, we have RBI guiding non-banking finance companies, NBFCs, to maintain at least 25% of their overall borrowing from capital market instrument. This is also very, very significant. Please pay attention here. So what is happening? What is the background of this information? If you try to understand what is happening, past few years, NBFCs borrowing from the banks, they have been borrowing more from the banks. Now that can lead to a systemic risk, right? And you see NBFCs ka retail loan segment has continuously been under screening from RBI because there have been cases of delinquency, default, right, in the smaller consumer loan segment or retail loan segment on the part of NBFCs. Now, if anything happens, anything negative happens, say any NPA happens to one NBFC, now that NBFC is also a borrower from a bank, it would translate into the banking system. The entire banking system might get corrupted or affected. So that can translate into a systemic risk. Now, to avoid these kind of things, RBI is trying to channelize the, trying to divert the sources of funding for NBFCs from the bank funds. And this step is in line with that. I hope you have understood this news, right? So now it requires that at least 25% of them should come from your capital market instruments, your bonds, stock, shares, etc., etc., right? Capital market instruments. Because presently they were having higher share of bank borrowing, as I told you. Also, in November 2023, the central bank had hiked the risk weight on the bank loans to NBFCs. Risk weight of the bank loans to NBFCs was also increased because they were risky, right? There were chances of default by 25%. The risk weights were increased by 25%. Okay. And if you look at the RBI's latest data, the bank's loans to NBFCs, they grew by 12% year-on-year basis if we look at, okay. So now to divert these sources of funding for the NBFCs from bank fund, they have required the NBFCs to have at least 25% of their overall borrowing from the capital market. Then next in the regulatory bodies news, we again have very, very important news. The NSE, your National Stock Exchange, NSE has relaxed the definition of what constitutes as of inactive trading account. Which activities will be there when you declare active trading account or inactive trading account, and what will be the tenure to declare the inactive trading account. This is the thing. Now, first thing which you have is the period has been increased from earlier 12 months to 24 months. Remember this thing. Earlier, account, if it was inactive for up to 12 months, was declared as inactive, but now it has been relaxed. So 12 more months have been given. 24 months. 24. Earlier, only trading in equity, F&O segment, F&O, commodities and currencies were considered for the account to be active. But now, NSE circular allows trades in IPO, your mutual funds, sovereign gold bond, OFS and buybacks as well to be considered as active trading account. Now remember this criteria as well. So apart from equity, F&O, commodities, currency exchange, you have these activities. Their trading will also constitute your account to be an active trading account. And remember, the criteria has been relaxed from earlier 12 months to 24 months right now. I hope this is clear. Then we have certain data on cyber frauds. So according to some data from RBI, almost 3,207 crores were lost because of cyber fraud cases between financial year 2020 to 2024. That is a huge loss, right? So cyber cases are a threat. We need to tackle them because it has a lot of repercussions, financial loss as well, like this. So you can remember the data. Nothing more is important to be discussed here. Because during the festive season also, the digital transactions, they pick up the pace. So these kind of data, they become important, right? This was about regulatory bodies news. These are charts related to cyber security threats and cyber frauds, but not important. You can just skip this. This was about the regulatory bodies news. I hope all of these are clear because we really have very important news in this section today, right? Then moving on to the banking news. In banking news, you have Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. So Ujjivan Small Finance Bank has received approval from RBI to work as an authorized dealer. So it has received authorized dealer 1 license from RBI. Okay. Now that would mean that it will be able to provide a full forex product and services, right? So it will be providing you full-fledged bouquet of forex, foreign exchange products and services. All right, like buying currencies, selling currencies, borrowing foreign currencies for customers in India, abroad, etc. These kind of activities can now be performed by Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. It has received category AD1 license, authorized dealer 1 license from RBI. In retail banking services, they can provide the services of remittances, FCNR deposits, forex cards, currency exchange, capital transactions like ECB, external commercial borrowings, etc., etc., FDI, etc. Right? So remember Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. They can ask you this thing. Then next we have Bangalore-based fintech startup Slice. Slice has completed its merger with Northeast Small Finance Bank. So there is a merger of Slice, which is a Bangalore-based fintech, with Northeast Small Finance Bank with effect from 27th October after RBI's approval. Just remember the merger, nothing more is relevant here. Then we have State Bank of India and the India Exim Bank. They are helping businesses in African countries to fill the gap in trade finance. So remember which two banks are involved here. You have SBI, the State Bank of India, and the India Exim Bank. They are helping African countries particularly for trade financing, providing loans, lines of credit for trading activities so that via trade these countries can develop their economies. I hope this is clear. Now, then we have Mahindra Finance will be launching a co-branded credit card with RBL Bank. So Mahindra Finance is planning to launch a co-branded credit card with your RBL Bank. Okay. Aim, of course, to cater to the customers' aspirational needs and providing a lot of facilities. RBL, you must be knowing, earlier it was known as Ratnakar Bank Limited. Headquartered in Mumbai, present MD and CEO is R. Subramanian Kumar, and then tagline is Apno Ka Bank. Remember the tagline of RBL because it is in news, so can be asked Apno Ka Bank. So just remember Mahindra Finance will be launching a co-branded credit card with whom? With RBL Bank. Then moving on to the national and state news. In national news, first we have Union Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports has unveiled a national or nationwide volunteering initiative titled This Diwali with My Bharat, Ye Diwali My Bharat ke Saath. So this initiative is a volunteering initiative which calls for participation from the youth of India. Also their participation, their active participation in social programs, social activities, social awakening, etc. This was the thing, right? So remember, it took place from 27th to 30th October. It also celebrated the first anniversary of My Bharat portal. Remember, it also celebrated first anniversary of My Bharat portal. This My Bharat portal was established by the ministry, by the same ministry, concerned ministry, for active engagement of the youth community, to make them actively engaged with each other, to make them an active contributor of the changing social dynamics, enhancing their contribution in the social awakening, social progress processes, etc. Right? A lot of campaigns, etc. So basically, for empowering the youth via their participation. This was the aim of the portal. Now moving on to the next news, then you have Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has rolled out the Swachh Diwali Shubh Diwali campaign. Okay, where they focus on promoting the principles of triple R or 3R, which is reduce, reuse and recycle. Reduce, reuse and recycle in order to combat pollution and better manage the waste disposal. On the same occasion, they have unveiled the Swabhav Swachhata portal and Diwali campaign dashboard as well for this purpose. Remember, reduce, reuse and recycle, 3R. Then we have Union Minister of Consumers Affairs has launched the mobile application of FCI Grievance Redressal System, FCI GRS. Grievance Redressal System basically for addressing the grievances for rice millers in New Delhi. Whatever grievances these rice millers they have with FCI, they can be addressed on this, right? So addressing the grievances of rice millers particularly, this has been mobile application. So this application will be helping them out in resolving the grievances of these rice millers, whatever grievances they have with FCI. All right. This is the thing. Then we have recently 4 replicas of the Konark wheels made of sandstone. They have been installed at Rashtrapati Bhavan Cultural Center and Amrit Udyan, New Delhi. So 4 replicas of the Konark Sun Temple. Konark Sun Temple, 4 replicas they have been installed in the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the Amrit Udyan in New Delhi. Now what are these, what is the significance of this? Konark Sun Temple is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, you must be knowing. This is particularly known for its intricate architectural style, which is particularly belonging to the state of Odisha, right? So it is dedicated to Lord Sun or God Sun, right? Belonging a Hindu temple. And then it has been created in the shape of chariot, having 24 such wheels. Now 4 replicas they have been installed to celebrate this architectural masterpiece. Okay. So remember this. And then about Konark Sun Temple, as I told you, it was declared as UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1984 only. And then it is located in Odisha, Puri district. It was built as in the shape of a colossal chariot, as I told you, carrying the sun god. And it was built in 13th century by King Narsimha Dev I of the Eastern Ganga dynasty. Right? So it was built by King Narsimha Dev I of the Eastern Ganga dynasty. You can remember these relevant facts. Then we have on the occasion of Dhanvantri Jayanti. So recently we have covered in the news analysis in current affairs the 9th Ayurveda Day. Right? If you remember the previous classes, we have covered 9th Ayurveda Day and the theme as well. So on the occasion of Dhanvantri Jayanti, 9th Ayurveda Day or October 29, Prime Minister has launched and inaugurated the foundation stone of multiple projects related to health sector. So a lot of projects related to health sector have been inaugurated by the Prime Minister. Now this Ayurveda Day celebrated as Dhanvantri Jayanti. Dhanvantri basically is considered very important mythological figure. Dhanvantri is considered as the lord of or god of medicines and good health, right? Medicines and health. So that's why Ayurveda Day is celebrated on Dhanvantri Jayanti is celebrated on 29th October. This is to recognize Indian traditional medicine system and their importance, their value, their uses in treating a lot of ailments, without side effects. So you see, Ayush is gaining importance. So on that occasion, Prime Minister has inaugurated a lot of projects. Let's see which are them. First is extension of PMJ. So you have the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana extended to cover all citizens aged above 70, aged 70 and above, all citizens. Okay. So now all citizens aged 70 and above will be covered under Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana regardless of the income level. So it does not depend on the income level, etc. If you are 70 and above, you are under this scheme. Alright. Then inauguration of phase 2 of All India Institute of Ayurveda. All India Institute of Ayurveda in New Delhi is particularly serving as a top research and innovation, research and development institute in terms of Ayurveda. So phase 2 development of this has been also inaugurated. It will be having a state-of-the-art Panchkarma hospital and Ayurvedic pharmacy, then a sports medicine unit, a central library, IT and startup incubation center, 500-seat auditorium. All these things will be there in phase 2 development of this All India Institute of Ayurveda. This will further enhance India's capacity and capabilities in terms of Ayurveda research, development and innovation. Then they are also planning or they have also inaugurated new medical colleges and they have upgraded AIIMS centers across India. So 3 new medical colleges they have inaugurated in Mandsaur, Neemuch and Sioni districts in Madhya Pradesh. Remember these 3 locations, Mandsaur, Neemuch and Sioni districts in Madhya Pradesh. They have also unveiled new facilities at various AIIMS locations, including your Bilaspur, AIIMS Kalyani, Patna, Gorakhpur, etc. Then they have also expanded the ESIC network, Employees State Insurance Corporation cover, ESIC network, drone healthcare, digital innovations. Additionally, helicopter emergency medical service will be launched at AIIMS Rishikesh. Remember this, helicopter emergency medical services. So they will be utilizing helicopters for emergency medical services. Remember at which AIIMS? At AIIMS Rishikesh. Okay. At AIIMS Rishikesh. Remember this thing. Then climate resilient healthcare and national health awareness campaign has also been launched, which is Desh Ka Prakriti Parikshan Abhiyan. Desh Ka Prakriti Parikshan Abhiyan. Remember that. All right. And the Prime Minister has also led the foundation of 4 Center of Excellence at NIPER. So basically 4 Center of Excellence they have inaugurated at the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. So these are at Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Guwahati and Mohali. So please remember these 4 centers of excellence under National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. 4 locations, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Guwahati and Mohali. Please remember all of them. Then the Prime Minister has also inaugurated India's biggest Jan Aushadhi Kendra. This is also going to be very, very important. India's biggest Jan Aushadhi Kendra at AIIMS, New Delhi. Biggest Jan Aushadhi Kendra at AIIMS, New Delhi. And then 5 projects under the production linked incentive schemes for medical devices and bulk drugs have been initiated in state of Gujarat, Telangana, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh. Production linked incentives, you all know that they provide incentive on more addition in the production capacities. So this is for medical devices and drugs. It will enhance India's medical health infrastructure capabilities. This was about all these important projects. Remember these new locations where these helicopter services they have been launched. Then you have this Jan Aushadhi Kendra at AIIMS New Delhi, India's largest such. Then you have helicopter emergency medical service at AIIMS Rishikesh. All these important facts are there. Then moving on to the next set of news. Next we have President of Spain, Pedro Sanchez has inaugurated 4th Spain-India Forum in Mumbai. So fourth Spain India Forum has been inaugurated. Remember the theme. Theme becomes really important. Theme is Spain India partnership amid geopolitical and technological challenges, new horizons and new possibilities. This is the theme for 2024, or this is the theme for this fourth Spain India Forum inaugurated in Mumbai. Remember the theme, okay? Then we have certain data. This data, is not associated with any particular major institute, but this has been there in The Hindu. So let's see, this is investment data. What does this data says? According to this data, the overall investments, they jumped to 42.5 in the second quarter. Okay, so overall investments, they have risen. What have been the reasons? The government's continuous push for capital expenditure, a lot of capital inflows, etc., etc. So a lot of factors are there. Remember this. If you look at the state administrations, they ramped up new outlays by 67%. So overall investments, they have jumped 42.5%, remember. Then we have private sector investments also grew at a pace of 22.2%. Then domestic private capital recorded 17.5% uptick. That means domestic capital formation, private capital formation, right? So we are not only relying on the foreign sources of capital for foreign capital inflows for the investment, but we have our own domestic capital funds for investment activities. This is the thing. Then we have Gujarat. So among these states, if you see Maharashtra remained the top draw for investors, as was the case in quarter one. So Maharashtra is attracting the maximum investment. Remember, Maharashtra. Then Gujarat recovered from the fifth spot to attract the second highest investments. After Maharashtra, you have Gujarat. So first you have Maharashtra, then you have Gujarat. Remember these states. Then we have Karnataka and Tamil Nadu claiming the third and fourth position. So first Maharashtra, then Gujarat, then Karnataka, then Tamil Nadu in terms of investment. I hope this is clear. Right? So now, moving on to the next set of news. Then we have government think tank Central Electricity Authority is planning to build transmission infrastructure. Now what is this Central Electricity Authority? Central Electricity Authority is a statutory body, basically a statutory body. It gives suggestions to the government, does the policy formulation as well, suggestions, recommendations for adoption of energy or electricity related plans and programs, right? So this is statutory body, remember, Central Electricity Authority. Now it is planning to build transmission infrastructure of 613 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2032, remember. So this is their target. They are planning to build transmission infrastructure for 613 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2032. And in its recently released National Electricity Plan, the CE estimates that India will have 653 gigawatt capacity for electricity generation from non-fossil fuel basis. Okay, this is the distribution. Then if we look at the total installed electricity generation capacity, it is expected to be 997 gigawatt by 2031-32 from non-fossil fuel, right? Wind and solar capacities, they are higher by 43 gigawatt and 20 gigawatt respectively. They have also increased. So we are having more installed capacity and electricity generation capacity from non-fossil fuel basis, particularly wind and solar energy are contributing to it. You can remember this thing. And currently, if you see, India has solar and wind power capacities of 90 gigawatt and 47 gigawatt respectively. So you can remember this figure. As per this report, India presently has solar capacity of 90 gigawatt and wind power capacity of 47 gigawatt. You can remember this fact. So these are certain facts coming from the Central Electricity Authority. Then we have All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. So AIIMS Delhi has announced an initiative. What is this initiative? This is grassroot. What is the extension of grassroot? Grassroot is gravity stent retriever system for reperfusion of large vessel occlusion trial, clinical trial in New Delhi, which is a clinical trial basically of stent, basically these stent retrievers. This is a clinical trial of this. What are these stent retrievers? They are medical devices. They are used basically to what do we call it? They are basically used to treat the blood clots particularly, right? To remove the blood clots. Often even such complicated blood clots which are present in the brain, which is very risky. So this technology is particularly used in that. So for these clinical trials, AIIMS Delhi has announced this particular initiative, which will be having a lot of clinical trials of this, right? Grassroots. Because these clots then they lead to strokes and they are fatal, right? They can lead to on-spot death of the affected person. This was the news. This was about the national news. Now moving on to the state news category, let's see what do we have. So first thing we have is Prime Minister inaugurating the foundation stone of laying the foundation stone of projects worth around 4,900 crore rupees at Amreli in Gujarat. He has also inaugurated Bharat Mata Sarovar. Remember, Bharat Mata Sarovar in Dudala village of Amreli district. And this is a joint venture by Dholakia Foundation and Government of Gujarat. It has been developed on PPP model, public-private partnership. So this Bharat Mata Sarovar is going to be an attractive tourist destination. It is going to expand Gujarat's tourism economy. And remember, this is a joint venture based on a PPP model, public-private partnership, between the Dholakia Foundation as well as the Government of Gujarat. Then next comes from Haryana government. Haryana government has implemented a scheme, Rajya Vishisht Yojana, to curb the incidence of stubble burning. You see stubble burning coming from Haryana is also one of the contributors. I'm not saying the primary contributor, among the major contributors of the Delhi's declining air quality, right? Among all other things. So these kind of activities, they are important. So particularly the government of Haryana has implemented a scheme called Rajya Vishisht Yojana to curb the incidence of such stubble burning. And for that, it provides farmers with financial assistance for managing their crop residue so that they do not engage in the activities of stubble burning. Rather than they can utilize sustainably these crops residue, while also setting zero burning targets for panchayats. All the gram panchayats which are out there in the state of Haryana, they have set the zero burning target of crop residue for these panchayats so that they do not engage in the stubble burning process, right? And under the scheme, the red zone panchayats, they will receive incentive of 1 lakh rupees. Yellow zone panchayats, they will receive 50,000 rupees for achieving zero burning target of crop residue. Now, what are these? So, Haryana government has done what? Depending on the severity of stubble burning cases, it has classified the panchayats into 3 categories. It has classified the panchayats into 3 categories. The red zone, the yellow zone and the green zone. So red zone is the maximum cases, more severity of stubble burning cases. Yellow zone is less than that and green zone is more less than that. So it is green, basically no red flag here. These are the classifications. So remember, the red zone will receive incentive of 1 lakh rupees for achieving the target, and the yellow zone panchayats will be receiving 50,000 rupees for achieving such non-burning, zero burning target of these crop residue, for not burning the crop residue. Then we have again very important news, the Thano village. Thano village from Uttarakhand has become India's first writers village. Remember, Thano village from around 24 kilometers from Dehradun, Uttarakhand, has become India's first writers village. It was jointly inaugurated by former President Ramnath Kovind, Uttarakhand Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and then Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami. And it is first work of writers village, Ram in the Himalayas, written by Nishank, was also released. So first work of this writers village, Ram in the Himalayas. What is the first work coming out of this writers village? It is Ram in the Himalayas, written by Nishank. It has also been released. And the idea, the concept of writers village is basically a brainchild of former Chief Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, who was a distinguished writer himself. right? So this idea of having writers village is basically providing them with an opportunity, all these story writers, poets, etc., providing them an opportunity to expand their skills and utilize them properly, recognizing the writing skills, etc. So remember Thano village, India's first writers village, Uttarakhand. Then we have Assam CM launching Nijut Moina scheme to provide monthly financial assistance. Nijut Moina scheme. Now, what is this Nijut Moina scheme? This is providing financial assistance to girl child for their enrollment in the higher education segment, to increase girls' enrollment in higher education and fight child marriage. Okay. Under this, they will be also, it will be complementing the existing free admission scheme by providing additional financial support. So it is not going to replace the existing free admission support provided by the state government. It is in addition to that. So the monthly financial assistance will be high school, say high school first year you have 10,000 annually, then graduate level you have 12,500 annually, and postgraduate level tak you will have 25,000 annually. This will be the financial assistance. It is going to reduce the cases of student dropout, particularly girl child dropout from the school enrollment, and then also reduce the chances of child marriage, right? It will be like a DBT, direct benefit transfer. It will be directly credited to the beneficiary's bank account. Okay, directly credited to the beneficiary's bank account. Then we have the international news. So in international news, we have US, Japan and South Korea. They have launched a new framework to support digital infrastructure growth initiative for India, which is Digi framework. So remember Digi framework. No voice? Am I not audible? Voice is clear from here. Can you please check it at your end and then let me know? Navneeta, voice is good from this end. I'm audible, right? Yes, anyone? Nitin? All right, so let's resume the discussion now. So you have US, Japan and South Korea. They have launched a new framework to support digital infrastructure growth in India, which is Digi framework. Okay, and aim is basically to further their collaboration with Indian private sector to support digital infrastructure in India. This is to collab more for expansion of digital infrastructure in India. Okay, they will be supporting projects in information and communications technology sector like 5G, Open RAN, submarine cables, optical fiber networks, data centers, smart city, e-commerce, AI, quantum technology, etc. These will be the areas of collaboration, remember. And one thing which we have here, important and relevant, India became the first country to become or to build all the 3 foundational digital public infrastructure through India Stack. So 3 digital public infrastructure foundations which we have created. First is Aadhaar, digital identity. Then we have real-time payment system, UPI. Then we have data sharing architecture, okay, or data empowerment and protection architecture like account aggregator, which provides you safe and secure data sharing on financial services, financial data sharing, banking data sharing, right? So India has become the first such country to build all these 3 digital public infrastructure foundation through India Stack. India Stack is basically an aggregate of all these components, different components. It provides open API to develop all these infrastructure facilities. I hope this is clear. So please remember, India is first such country. Now moving on to certain MOUs and mergers, let's see. So during the visit of President of Spain, as we have recently discussed, Mr. Pedro, to India, both nations, they have signed MOUs in rail transport, customs and investment, remember. An MOU with the rail transport was signed for cooperation in planning, designing, and development of operational infrastructure. They have also decided to celebrate 2026 as India-Spain Year of Culture, Tourism and AI. Remember this. This is going to be important for all the upcoming examinations. So India and Spain, they have decided to celebrate the year 2026 as India-Spain Year of Culture, Tourism and AI. So they will be celebrating 2026 year 2026 as India-Spain Year of Culture, Tourism and AI. Okay, remember 2026. Do not confuse it with the upcoming year. Then we have Competition Commission of India has approved the acquisition of additional share capital of Agilus Diagnostics Limited by Fortis Healthcare Limited. So the shareholding of FHL in Agilus will increase from 57 to 89.2%. Then we have Indian Railways has signed MOU with the Federal Department of the Environment, Transport and Communications of the Swiss Confederation to enhance cooperation between the two nations. So Indian Railways will be enhancing cooperation with the Swiss Federation for this purpose. Remember that. They will be collaborating on areas related to related to transportation, freight services, passenger services, etc. Then you have Solex Energy. Solex Energy has partnered with SBI, State Bank of India, to offer solar financing options for commercial, industrial and institutional customers. So whatever say you want to establish solar panels, so solar financing options will be provided after this MOU, right? So Solex Energy and SBI, they have partnered for solar financing. They will be providing this for commercial, industrial, institutional customers as well under its Surya Shakti Solar Finance Scheme across India. And loans up to 10 crore will be provided. This will accelerate the expansion of India's aim of expanding its renewable energy generation capacity, particularly solar energy generation capacity. Then we have the BASF and AM Green BV. They have signed an MOU to jointly evaluate and develop business opportunities for low carbon chemicals produced with renewable energy in India. This BASF is international giant working in chemicals industry. Okay, then you have AM Green BV. AM Green is continuously working in renewable energy transition. So it is providing renewable energy transition solutions and products. Now they have signed an MOU in order to come out with possible options of expanding their business in low carbon chemicals production. Okay. Then we have Science Tech and Defense. So we have third edition of Acing Development of Innovation Technologies with IDEX, Innovations for Defense Excellence, Aditi 3.0. Aditi 3.0. Remember, Aditi stands for Acing Development of Innovation Technologies with IDEX. IDEX has Innovations for Defense Excellence. And 13th edition, so this is third edition, and then we have 13th edition of DISC 13 or DISC 13, Defense India Startup Challenge, unveiled by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Now, what are these? These initiatives, these challenges are particularly for expanding India's state-of-the-art technology capacity building in defense sector. Also, indigenization of the defense equipments. Expanding our capacities and capabilities for production of defense equipments. That too with the state-of-the-art technical expertise and know-how. And these were launched at the Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization Seminar, Swavlamban at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. Okay. What is this Aditi 3.0 and DISC 13? So you should remember, they can ask you the extension as well. Remember the full form of Aditi. So Aditi is a feature of, it features a challenge from Indian Navy to design high power microwave weapon system. How can Indian Navy design a high power microwave weapon system? And then DISC, remember the extension of DISC as well. DISC 13 presents 7 challenges, 3 for Indian Army, 2 each from Indian Navy and Air Force. For artificial intelligence, military communication and autonomous bots among them. So how can you utilize these technologies? And utilizing these technologies, developing such equipments in India only is the major challenge. In addition, remember, Swavlamban initiative has collaborated with 213 MSMEs. So the Swavlamban, indigenization, self-sufficiency, Swavlamban campaign, it has collaborated with how many? 213 MSMEs and startups, engaging them for defense production in India, more indigenization of the defense equipments. Okay. So this was the thing. Then we have just a second. All right. Then we have Defense Ministry receiving a dividend of 1,620 crore from defense public sector undertakings like HAL, Bharat Electronics Limited, BEML Limited, Bharat Dynamics Limited, Mazgaon Dock Shipyards Limited, etc. So this thing, and if you remember, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has received Maharatna status, becoming 14th Maharatna PSU of India and first among the DPSUs. This is something we have covered already in the current affairs classes. If you remember, HAL has been the 14th Maharatna and first from the defense public sector undertaking. All right. Then we have Prime Minister and his Spanish counterpart, Mr. Pedro. They have jointly inaugurated the Tata Aircraft Complex. Remember, Tata Aircraft Complex. Tata Aircraft Complex for manufacturing of C-295 aircrafts. C-295 aircrafts for Indian Air Force at Tata Advanced Systems Limited in Gujarat, Vadodara. So in this, your Tata and Airbus, they are partnering for pioneering the Make in India program to deliver 56 C-295 aircrafts, 56 such aircrafts to the Indian Air Force. Remember. So C-295 will be developed in Vadodara, Gujarat, remember. Then in defense, we have Indian Coast Guard simultaneously launched two fast patrolling vessels, Adamya and Akshar. So remember, if they ask you what are Adamya and Akshar, recently seen in news. So Adamya and Akshar, these are fast patrolling vessels recently launched by Indian Coast Guard. Okay. Then we have the US, France and Armenia. They have emerged as the top 3 destinations for Indian defense exports. Please remember this. This is going to be important. Top 3 destinations for Indian defense exports, not the overall exports. Defense exports ke liye US. So first is US, then France and then Armenia. These are the top 3 defense exports destinations for Indian defense manufacturers. Armenia in particular is the biggest client of finished Indian weapons and equipments, finished, which are at the final stage. They are ready for final use. They are not at the intermittent stage, right? So Armenia, remember, is the biggest export destination for the finished defense equipments coming from defense manufacturers in India. India's defense exports also have touched a record of 21,083 crores, and this is the thing. So remember, US, France and Armenia. Then moving on to certain indices and rankings, we have Nature Conservation Index. Nature Conservation Index. According to this Nature Conservation Index, with a score of 45.5 out of 100, India has ranked 176 out of 180 countries. This Nature Conservation Index basically tries to assess countries depending on their conservational efforts. Whatever conservational efforts they have indulged into for conservation, restoration of several ecosystems and biodiversity. So this is the thing, remember, Nature Conservation Index, India has been ranked at 176 out of 180 countries. 176 out of 180 countries. Okay. And these are the 4 pillars on the basis of which they assess the countries. Managing protected areas, how much you have been able to manage your protected areas. how much threats you have been able to address, which are there looming onto the biodiversity. Then you have nature and conservation governance, and you have future trends in the country's natural resource management. What are your future trends and expectations and policies for natural resources management? Okay, these are 4 criterias, remember. And if you look at the top ranking countries, so India's ranking is 176 out of 180. Then you have top ranking countries में Luxembourg. Remember, the top performing country here is Luxembourg. Then you have Estonia. Then you have Denmark, Finland, and UK. And the worst performing country is Kiribati. Worst performing country is Kiribati. And this index is developed by Goldman Sonfeld School of Sustainability and Climate Change. Now moving on to certain other reports. According to the UN Report 2024, Nationally Determined Contributions Synthesis Report, Nationally Determined Contributions Synthesis Report, current national climate plans of countries, they would cumulatively reduce global emissions by only 2.6% by 2030. So you see several countries, they have their nationally NDCs, nationally determined contributions. Whatever they have determined that this will be our contribution in reducing the global emissions and global average temperature. So the report says if cumulatively we see the contributions and present actions of all these countries having their nationally determined contributions clearly set out, so cumulatively they are only going to reduce global emissions by 2.6% by 2030 compared to 2019 levels of emissions, which is not sufficient. Okay, because if we want to have a goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming limit global temperature, this is not sufficient. We have already crossed it, right? So it is not sufficient, basically the report highlights, to achieve a global average temperature of rise in global average temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius. That is something we have already discussed from the pre-industrial levels, right? So that is not sufficient, this report highlights. So basically by 2035, if you see net global, by 2035, net global greenhouse gas emissions, they need to be cut by 60%. Okay, compared to 2019 level. So if you want to really reduce the global average temperatures, you will have to reduce global emissions from 2019 levels by 60% at least. Then if we talk about the awards, sports, etc. So you have Bibhap Kumar Talukdar conferred as the Harry Messel Award, with the Harry Messel Award for Conservation Leadership by Species Survival Commission of the IUCN. So IUCN's Species Survival Commission, which provides this award for exemplary efforts in the conservation, which translates into survival of certain species, such conservational efforts. So remember, Bibhap Kumar Talukdar has received this. IUCN, you all must be knowing, International Union for Conservation of Nature. IUCN is a global body working towards monitoring and conservation of different species. It also publishes a red list, which tracks the population of these species and then attaches them IUCN status, red list IUCN status, whether they are vulnerable, they are critically endangered, they are endangered, depending on their population which is presently there, so that we can identify such species which are under higher threat, major threat of survival, and then we can countries can formulate policies accordingly. Then we have next, you have Rodri from Manchester City, Spain, and Aitana Bonmati from Barcelona, Spain. These famous footballers, they have been awarded Men's Player of the Year and Women's Player of the Year respectively. Remember, footballers, right? And in the Ballon d'Or ceremony in Paris, France. So remember, in Ballon d'Or ceremony in Paris, France. And these are other awards. Men's Coach of the Year, Carlo Ancelotti. Then you have Women's Coach of the Year, Emma Hayes. Then you have Men's Club of the Year, Real Madrid. So Real Madrid is Men's Club of the Year. Then Women's Club of the Year is Barcelona Feminine. Then you have the Gerd Muller Trophy, clinched by Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe. And then Copa Trophy is clinched by Lamine Yamal from Spain. Okay, and Socrates Award has been given to Jennifer Hermoso. So you just remember these two names at least, if you can not remember all the names. Rodri from Manchester City, and then Aitana Bonmati from Barcelona, Men's Player of the Year and Women's Player of the Year respectively. Then you have Chiranjeevi, Indian actor Chiranjeevi has been honored with prestigious Akinemi Nageshwar Rao National Award in Hyderabad. This is for exemplary contributions in cinema. This was felicitated by legend Amitabh Bachchan, and it recognizes their contributions to Indian cinema. You all know that. Then we have Pro Kabaddi League. So this is important. Remember, Pro Kabaddi League was awarded the title of Best Sports League of the Year. Pro Kabaddi League has been awarded with the title of Best Sports League of the Year, okay, in New Delhi. Then you have South Pacific nation of Fiji has announced Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, the founder of the Art of Living in India, transforming a lot of lives with the art of living. So Sri Sri Ravi Shankar has been honored with highest civilian award. Remember which country? Fiji, okay, for upliftment of communal harmony. Then festivals, if you see, this is 20th edition of Zammandu, which is Kathmandu Jazz, okay, Kathmandu Jazz Festival celebrated in Kathmandu. Jazz is a music form, right? So Kathmandu Jazz Festival is celebrated from 24th to 30th October, remember, Kathmandu. Then sports news mein we have in cricket, your Indian all-rounder Deepti Sharma has attained a career best #2 spot in women's ODI bowlers ranking latest. So who is number one? Number one is Sophie from England, remember. Number 2 is Deepti Sharma. Then we have Rani Rampal, Indian hockey legend. Indian hockey legend Rani Rampal has announced her retirement from the sport. She has played 254 international matches, scoring 120 goals, starting with her debut as 14-year-old in 2008 Olympics. Then Hockey India. Hockey India, as we have discussed a number of times, has announced 18-member squad. 18-member squad for the upcoming Women's Asian Championships Trophy 2024. And the defending champions India will be led by midfielder Salima, while forward Navneet Kaur will serve as the vice captain, remember. About the Women's Asian Champions Trophy, this is going to be the 8th edition from 11th to 20th November 2024. Location will be Bihar Rajgir Hockey Stadium. Remember, 8th edition of Women's Asian Champions Trophy. Then we have VVS Lakshman will be the head coach of senior men's cricket team during the upcoming T20 International Tour of South Africa. Then we have Indian wrestler Chirag Chikara has won the gold in men's freestyle 57 kg division after defeating Kyrgyz opponent. Okay, under 23 World Championship in Tirana, Albania. Remember, so Chirag Chikara has won gold medal in freestyle 57 kg category. Then we have Francesco Bagnaia, Italian motorcycle racer, has won the Thai Motor GP 2024. So Francesco has won the Thai Motor Grand Prix 2024. Remember. Then we have at the Japan Para Badminton International 2024, India's star shuttler Sukant Kadam has won a gold medal in men's singles and a silver medal in men's doubles alongside his partner Dinesh Rajay. This is something we have covered in 26th and 27th October news analysis as well. Talking about certain important appointments, so you have Deepak Agrawal appointed as new managing director of NAFED. Then you have Ashok Chandra recommended as next MD and CEO of PNB by your FSIB, Financial Services Institutions Bureau. Now, one important thing about FSIB, Financial Services Institutions Bureau, FSIB's earlier name was BBB, Bank Board Bureau. This bureau, it gives suggestions for these top appointments in the public sector undertakings and banks particularly, right? So it gives recommendations to the government. Remember, earlier it was known as BBB, Bank Board Bureau. Now it is Financial Services Institutions Bureau. Then we have Vipin Kumar taking over as chairman of Airports Authority of India, AAI. Then you have Shashwat Sharma will be taking charge as the next MD and CEO of Airtel. Then we have obituary, so former Karnataka High Court Judge Justice K.S. Puttaswamy, who played a pivotal role in declaration of right to privacy. Right to privacy may has contributed a lot as a fundamental right from Supreme Court in 2017, has passed away in 1998. So Justice K.S. Puttaswamy has contributed a lot in declaring right to privacy as a fundamental right. Okay, remember. Then if we talk about the important days, so we have TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, which sets standards and regulatory norms for the telecom companies. TRAI has observed the Vigilance Awareness Week for the customers, given the increasing number of telecom frauds and cyber threats. So TRAI has observed Vigilance Awareness Week from 28th October to 3rd November. Remember, the theme was Culture of Integrity for Nation's Prosperity. Culture of Integrity for Nation's Prosperity. Then we have International Day of Care and Support, observed every year on October 29 to honor the accomplishments of caregivers and promote laws and programs which promotes care in the institutions, right? And the theme was Transforming Care Systems, Achieving Sustainable Development Goals in the context of Beijing Plus 30. Remember, this is the theme. Then we have International Animation Day, celebrated every year on October 28 to honor the origins and influence of animation. Then we have Ayurveda Day, as we have already discussed, the 9th Ayurveda Day celebrated recently on October 29 as the Dhanvantri Jayanti, with the theme Ayurveda Innovations for Global Health. Remember the theme. This can be there. You can expect a question from these sections tomorrow only in the examination, right? So Ayurveda, because they have constantly been in news. This is not something which is today we are discussing. So Ayurveda Innovations for Global Health is the theme. Then you have World Cities Day. The World Cities Day is celebrated annually on 31st October, which encourages the sustainable urban development in alignment with the SDG 11, remember, Sustainable Development Goal 11, which aims to make cities more inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. And what was the theme? Youth leading climate and local action for cities. The theme was Youth leading climate and local action for cities. Person in news may we have Matthew, T20 World Cup winner in 2021, has retired from international cricket and now will be working in as a coach in Australia's white ball setup. So this person is in news. He has played 36 tests, 97 ODIs and 92 T20 internationals, right? So this is the thing. This was the news. I hope all of this is clear. Today we had certain very important regulatory bodies news. That's why I took time to explain all these concepts. I have explained you all the concepts comprehensively. Please revise them so that when you go through these facts to remember them, you need not go through the concept once again, right? Because when you understand, you will be able to retain the fact for a longer period of time. Thank you so much for staying for so long. I wish you good luck for tomorrow's examination, everyone. Perform your best, give your best, and then leave the rest, right? So thank you so much. I'll be there in the next session with you. Till then, have a great day. All the very best to all the IRDAI aspirants for tomorrow examination. See you in the next class. Thank you so much.